I sat quietly in the mahogany-lined conference room of Sterling and Reed, one of Manhattan's most prestigious divorce law firms, watching my husband James' attorney try to suppress his smirk as he reviewed my financial declaration. Mrs. Harrison, Mr. Sterling cleared his throat, his Rolex catching the light as he shuffled papers. There seems to be a significant error in your financial disclosure. James leaned back in his custom-tailored suit, the same condescending smile he'd worn for 15 years playing across his face. Darling, did you confuse millions with billions again? Like that time you couldn't understand my bonus structure. I kept my expression neutral, remembering all the times he'd explained basic finance to me over dinner. No confusion. The declaration is accurate. Mr. Sterling's smirk grew wider. You're claiming a net worth of $8.2 billion? From what you've listed as, he squinted at the paper, digital asset management and technological innovations. That's correct. James actually laughed out loud. Honey, is this about your little online jewelry shop? The one you play with while I'm at work? My lawyer, Rebecca Chen, touched my arm gently. We practiced this moment for weeks. Should we show them? I nodded, pulling out my laptop. Actually, James, remember all those times you gave me an allowance for my shopping? The $50,000 a month, to keep you occupied? I typed in my security credentials. Did you ever wonder why I never seemed to buy anything? Multiple screens lit up across the conference room wall as my laptop connected to the display system. Real-time trading data flowed across them, cryptocurrency exchanges, NFT marketplaces, blockchain platforms, all showing transactions in the millions. What is this? James leaned forward, his smile faltering. This, I gestured to the central screen, is Nova Digital, my main trading platform. Currently processing about $300 million in transactions per hour. I switched to another screen. And this is Genesis Tech, my blockchain development company. We're currently contracted with 12 governments for their digital currency implementations. Mr. Sterling was rapidly typing on his phone, presumably fact-checking my claims. His face grew increasingly pale. But you spent your days shopping, James sputtered. No, I spent my days building the largest digital asset empire in Asia. I pulled up my corporate structure. Those mall trips, board meetings in our retail subsidiaries, the spa days, technology conferences, the jewelry making classes, blockchain development sessions. This can't be real. James stood up, his chair scraping back. You barely understood what I did for a living. Oh, you mean your mid-level management position at Goldman? The one where you brag about making 8 figures? I smiled slightly. I understood perfectly. I just made 9 figures while you were explaining compound interest to me. Rebecca distributed folders to everyone. These are the complete records of Mrs. Harrison's holdings. 28 companies, 15 patents, and controlling interest in 3 major cryptocurrency exchanges. But the jewelry business, James was still stuck on his comfortable narrative, was a cover. I pulled up the company's real numbers. Though ironically, it's also profitable. Turns out blockchain-authenticated diamonds are a growing market. Mr. Sterling was now frantically whispering to James, likely explaining just how badly they'd underestimated my assets. The preliminary divorce filing had focused on James's $50 million net worth, demanding I prove I could support myself without his income. Would you like to see the really interesting part? I asked, switching to another screen. The venture capital division. James's face went from confused to horrified as he recognized the company names. These are all my firm's clients. Were your firm's clients, I corrected. They moved their accounts to my management last quarter. Apparently they prefer 300% returns to your traditional 8%. You stole my clients. No, they chose to follow better performance. Basic market economics. I smiled. Something you tried to explain to me during our second date, I believe. Mr. Sterling finally found his voice. These documents appear to be in order. Mrs. Harrison's holdings are substantial and completely separate from marital assets, Rebecca added, all built with her own capital traced directly from the allowance Mr. Harrison so generously provided. I pulled up one final screen, a timeline of my empire's growth. Every time you patted my head and explained money to me like I was a child, I built something new. That shopping money you gave me to keep me busy, I turned it into one of the most sophisticated digital asset operations in the world. Why? James finally asked. Why pretend all this time? Because you never once asked what I actually did with my days. Too busy assuming I was just spending your money to notice I was making my own. I started packing up my laptop. By the way, those crypto investments you made last year, the ones you bragged about at dinner, what about them? You were trading on my exchange. In fact, I believe you lost quite a bit on that last Bitcoin dip. I smiled sweetly. Perhaps if you'd asked your wife for advice instead of explaining crypto to her, you might have known it was coming. Rebecca stood, gathering our materials. Given these revelations, we've prepared a revised divorce settlement. Mrs. Harrison is willing to be generous. Generous? James laughed bitterly. You've been lying to me for years. No, I corrected him. I've been succeeding despite you for years. There's a difference. I headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and James, those investment algorithms you've been praising at Goldman? Check who owns the patents. As we walked out, my phone buzzed with a notification. Another billion-dollar transaction completed on my platform. Just another Tuesday morning in the life of the wife who didn't understand finance. 2 days later, I sat in my real office, the top floor of a sleek building in downtown Manhattan, watching the trading volumes scroll across wall-sized screens. My phone had been buzzing nonstop since the news broke. Tech billionaire reveals identity in high-profile divorce. Ms. Reynolds? My assistant's voice came through the intercom. Goldman Sachs is on line one. Again. Let me guess, about James's position. They're reconsidering his role after learning his wife owns their trading platform. I smiled, remembering how James had bragged about implementing revolutionary new trading algorithms at Goldman. The same algorithms I'd licensed to them through a subsidiary he never bothered to research. Tell them I'll call back. I turned to the young woman sitting across from me, Katie, James's former assistant, who'd jumped ship the moment she learned who really controlled the industry. How's the transition going? Better than expected, she grinned. Though the look on James's face when I resigned was priceless. He kept saying there must be some mistake, that his wife couldn't possibly be that Elena Reynolds. My phone buzzed again, this time with a message from James himself. We need to talk. About everything. Your call, Katie noted. But the board meeting starts in 10 minutes. I stood straightening my Chanel suit, no more pretending to shop at outlet malls. Let him wait. I have an empire to run. The boardroom was already full when I arrived. The same financial titans who had dismissed me at James's company parties now stood respectfully. Among them was Richard Goldman himself, who had flown in specifically for this meeting. Elena, he nodded, I believe we have some matters to discuss regarding your husband's position. Ex-husband, I corrected, taking my seat at the head of the table. And yes, we do. Starting with how he's been taking credit for my company's innovations. The screens lit up with project data, billions in transactions, millions of users, and a technology stack that had revolutionized digital finance. All built while James thought I was playing with my online business. The numbers are impressive, Richard admitted. Though I'm curious why you kept your identity hidden for so long. I pulled up a photo from last year's Goldman holiday party, me standing quietly in the background while James held court, explaining his latest trading strategies to a group of admirers. Sometimes the best way to understand a system is to let people underestimate you, I replied. While James was broadcasting his mediocre success, I was building something unprecedented. My phone buzzed again. James was now in the lobby, demanding to see me. I texted security to let him up. This confrontation was inevitable, and I preferred it happen on my turf. Speaking of unprecedented, I continued, addressing the board. Let's discuss the real reason for today's meeting. Project Quantum. The room hushed as I pulled up the specifications for our latest innovation, a quantum computing platform that would make our current trading systems look primitive. That's when James burst in, his tie askew, looking nothing like the polished executive he pretended to be. Elena, he started, then stopped short as he saw who else was in the room. Mr. Goldman, what are you doing in my wife's boardroom? Richard finished, learning exactly how much talent we overlooked while listening to you take credit for her work. James slumped against the wall. Your work? All of it. The trading algorithms you bragged about. Mine. The blockchain platform you presented as your initiative? Also mine. I kept my voice level. Even that quantum computing project you've been hinting about to boost your reputation. Would you like to see the real version? The screens filled with Project Quantum's details. James's face went from red to white as he realized how completely he'd underestimated me. But you asked me to explain Bitcoin basics just last year. No, Katie interjected from her seat. She led you to explain it, watching you get half the technical details wrong, while her system was processing more crypto transactions than Coinbase. The board members tried to hide their smirks. They had all seen James at industry events, proudly explaining basic concepts to his simple wife. Mr. Harrison, Richard stood. I believe we should discuss your position at Goldman, perhaps somewhere more private. Actually, I interrupted, he can stay. He should see what he dismissed as my little hobby. The next hour was a detailed presentation of my company's true scope, the technology that had reshaped digital finance, the innovations that had made me billions, and the future projects that would revolutionize the industry. James sat silently, watching his world of assumed superiority crumble. Questions? I asked as I concluded. Just one, James said quietly. Why did you give me an office in your building? The board members looked confused until I pulled up the ownership records of James's prestigious office building. You mean my building? I smiled. I bought it 3 years ago through one of those shell companies you never bothered to investigate. Consider your lease a parting gift. Elena, Richard interrupted, about James's position at Goldman. Keep him, I said, surprising everyone, but with 2 conditions. Name them. First, he reports to Katie, who's taking over our Goldman account. Second, I turned to James, you attend mandatory training on blockchain technology, taught by actual experts this time, not your own ego. The board meeting concluded shortly after, with James being led out by Richard for what would surely be an uncomfortable conversation about his new role. Was that kindness or cruelty? Katie asked as we watched them leave. Neither, I replied. Just good business. Sometimes the best revenge is forcing someone to finally see their own limitations. My phone buzzed one final time, another trading milestone reached, another billion added to the empire I built while playing the role of the simple wife who needed financial concepts explained to her. Besides, I added, gathering my things, someone once told me women don't understand finance. I believe I've made my point. 6 months later, I stood in my private office, watching the sunset paint Manhattan's skyline in shades of gold. The screens surrounding me displayed my empire's latest triumph. Project Quantum had just processed its first $1 trillion trading day. My phone buzzed with a notification, a calendar reminder for James's progress review. I kept tabs on his development not out of sentiment, but because sometimes the best lessons come from complete reinvention. Katie entered with the latest reports. You won't believe this, she smiled. James actually completed the advanced blockchain certification. First try. Surprising what people can achieve when they stop pretending they know everything, I replied, scanning the documents. His performance under Katie's supervision had been interesting. Without the safety net of his assumed superiority, he'd finally started learning instead of posturing. He's waiting in conference room B, Katie added, and Elena, he brought something you should see. I found James sitting quietly, staring at his laptop, a far cry from the man who used to command rooms with his borrowed confidence. When he looked up, I saw something new in his expression, respect. Congratulations on Project Quantum, he said softly. The quantum encryption protocol is brilliant. You actually understand it now. He nodded, opening his laptop. That's what I wanted to show you. I've been working on an application of your protocol for smaller traders. A way to make quantum-secure trading accessible to retail investors. I reviewed his proposal, genuinely impressed. Without the burden of pretending to be the smartest person in the room, James had finally started creating something original. It's good, I admitted. Different from what I expected. I had a good teacher. He glanced at Katie's empty chair. Several, actually. Once I learned to listen instead of lecture. The screens behind us lit up with another trading milestone. James watched the numbers flow, no longer pretending to understand everything he saw. You know what I regret most? He asked suddenly. Not the money or the status, or even losing the respect of the entire industry. Oh, I regret never asking about your day, he smiled ruefully. 15 years of marriage and I never once actually listened when you talked about your online business. I pulled up his proposal on the main screen, expanding on his ideas. Well, I'm listening now. Tell me more about this retail application. For the next hour, we had our first real business conversation. No mansplaining, no condescension. Just two professionals discussing innovation. It was the dialogue we could have had years ago if he ever seen me as an equal. Elena, he said as we concluded, I know it's too late for apologies, but thank you for not destroying me when you could have. That was never the goal. I closed his proposal, having already decided to fund it through one of my venture funds. Sometimes success is the best teacher. My phone buzzed. Another media request for an interview about being a female pioneer in crypto. I declined dozens already, preferring to let my work speak for itself. You should do it, James surprised me by saying. Not for yourself, but for all the other women being underestimated right now. I raised an eyebrow. Personal growth looks good on you. While he stood gathering his things, I learned from the best, even if I was too arrogant to notice at the time. As he reached the door, I called out, James, the proposal is approved. Katie will handle the details. His genuine smile was worth more than any revenge. Thank you, boss. After he left, I turned back to the cityscape, thinking about all the other women out there, building empires while being explained to about basic concepts they'd mastered years ago. My phone buzzed one final time, a message from Katie. His quarterly review says significantly exceeded expectations. Who would have thought? I smiled, remembering all the quarterly reviews James had given me during our marriage, rating my progress at understanding his world of finance. Sometimes, I typed back, the best investment is in letting go of who you pretended to be. After all, success isn't just about proving others wrong. Sometimes it's about giving them the chance to prove themselves right, even if it takes a few $billion to teach the lesson. I sat in the mediation room, watching Marcus's expensive lawyer arrange papers with theatrical precision. My soon-to-be ex-husband lounged in his Italian suit, radiating the same arrogance that had driven me to build an empire right under his nose. Mrs. Chen, Marcus's lawyer began, my client is willing to be generous about the house and cars, but we'll need to include your technology company, Quantum Edge, in the asset division. I kept my face neutral, though inside I was laughing. Marcus had always dismissed Quantum Edge as my cute little coding project, something to keep me busy while he ran his family's prestigious manufacturing business. Is that so? I turned to Marcus. You won half of my cute little project. He smiled condescendingly, the same smile he'd worn when I told him I was starting a company. Sarah, darling, it's only fair. I supported you while you played entrepreneur. My connections, my network, they helped build whatever success you've had. My lawyer, Helen, touched my arm gently. We practiced this moment for weeks. Should I show them the documents now? Not yet, I said softly. Let's hear their full offer first. Marcus's lawyer pulled out more papers. We've had Quantum Edge valued at approximately $40 million. Given Mr. Chen's indirect contributions, we're asking for 50% ownership. I couldn't help but smile. They'd used last year's public valuations, not knowing about our recent government contracts or our pending patents. And what about Chen Manufacturing? I asked innocently. Are we including that in the asset division? Marcus laughed. That's my family's company. It's not marital property. My father left it to me before we were married. Did he? I opened my laptop. Helen, I think it's time. She handed Marcus's lawyer a thick folder. These are the ownership records for Chen Manufacturing from the past 3 years. Marcus rolled his eyes. I know who owns my company. I have the shell corporations, I interrupted. 7 of them to be exact. All leading back to one parent company. I turned my laptop around, showing them the corporate structure. Care to guess which company that is? His lawyer frowned, flipping through papers. This can't be right. These documents show that Chen Manufacturing was purchased by Quantum Edge, I finished. 3 years ago, when your father decided to sell secretly rather than hand you full control. Marcus's face went pale. My father would never. He did. I pulled out my phone, showing them a photo from 3 years ago, me shaking hands with Marcus's father in my office. He knew you weren't ready to lead, so he came to me. said he'd been watching my cute little coding project disrupt the industry. He wanted someone who could modernize the family legacy. You're lying. Marcus stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. I would have known if my company was sold. Would you? I raised an eyebrow. You never read the quarterly reports I sent home. Never attended the board meetings I scheduled. You were too busy telling everyone how you were born to run the company to notice who actually owned it. His lawyer was rapidly typing on his phone, presumably verifying the documents. Mr. Chen. She's right. Chen Manufacturing was acquired by Quantum Edge through a series of private transactions. The ownership change was filed with the SEC 3 years ago. But I've been running the company, Marcus sputtered. No, I corrected him. You've been managing daily operations, under my direction. Who did you think approved your budgets, your expansion plans? Did you ever wonder why the board always seemed to support your ideas after they were revised? The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Every decision Marcus had proudly announced at dinner, every strategy he boasted about, all of it had crossed my desk first. And Quantum Edge? His lawyer asked weakly. I smiled. Currently valued at $2.8 billion. Those government contracts you didn't know about. The revolutionizing military technology. The patents you didn't bother to investigate. They're reshaping quantum computing. Marcus collapsed back into his chair. All this time, I agreed you were working for me, rather unsuccessfully, I might add. Chen Manufacturing's efficiency is down 23% under your management. Hillen distributed new papers. Given these revelations, we've prepared a revised settlement offer. Mrs. Chen will retain full ownership of both companies naturally. And what do I get? Marcus asked hoarsely. A chance to keep your job, I replied. If you can improve your performance metrics. I hear the new CEO is quite demanding. New CEO? Me. I stood up, smoothing my dress. Your father's final condition for the sale was that I take direct control once the truth came out. He seems to think the company needs a firmer hand. Marcus's lawyer was frantically whispering in his ear, likely explaining just how thoroughly outmaneuvered they were. 3 years of ownership records, SEC filings, and board minutes proved everything. Why? Marcus finally asked. Why not just tell me? Because you never asked. I gathered my things. Too busy mansplaining business to your wife to notice she was your boss. By the way, those late-night meetings you've been having with your secretary? Those ended 3 weeks ago when I had HR transfer her to our Singapore office. His face reddened. You can't. I can, and I did. Consider it your first performance review. I headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and Marcus, the board meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. Don't be late. I'm not as forgiving of tardiness as your father was. As I walked out, Helen trailing behind me with a satisfied smile, my phone buzzed with a message from Marcus's father. Is it done? Yes, I typed back. He knows. Good, came the reply. Maybe now he'll learn what real business acumen looks like. I smiled, remembering the day the elder Mr. Chen had come to my office, impressed by how I'd built Quantum Edge while his son was busy playing golf with clients. Your son wanted his father's company, I typed. He just didn't expect it to come with his wife as his boss. After all, some lessons in humility are best learned in the boardroom. The next morning, I arrived at Chen Manufacturing's headquarters at precisely 8:30 a.m. The security guard who had always demanded my visitor's pass now scrambled to open the door, having received the company-wide memo about their true CEO. Good morning, Mrs. Chen, he stammered. I'm so sorry about all those times Water under the bridge, David. I smiled, remembering how many times I quietly observed the company's operations under the guise of visiting my husband. Though I appreciate that you were always diligent about security. The executive floor was buzzing with nervous energy. Marcus's secretary's desk was empty, a reminder of the swift changes I'd already implemented. I walked into what had been Marcus's office, now mine, and found him waiting there, looking lost. You're early, I noted, setting my briefcase on what was now my desk. That's new. I couldn't sleep, he admitted, standing awkwardly by the wall of family photos. 3 generations of Chen men proudly leading the company. I keep thinking about how I never noticed. The signs were there. I began reorganizing the desk. Remember last year's strategic pivot to sustainable manufacturing? Your brilliant idea came from a proposal I'd left on the kitchen table. I thought those were your students' papers, he muttered. You said you were teaching business classes. I was, at Harvard, as a guest lecturer on corporate acquisitions. I pulled out the photo of him and his father, replacing it with one of the entire board, including me, standing quietly in the back during my charity fundraiser visits. Your father attended every lecture. Marcus stared at the new photo arrangement. He knew all along that you were building something bigger than both our companies combined. Yes, I opened my laptop, bringing up the morning's agenda. He said he wanted his grandchildren to have a proper business role model. Right on cue, my phone buzzed with a text from our daughter Amy. Kill it at the board meeting, Mom. Show Dad how it's really done. Does Amy know everything? Marcus asked, noticing my small smile. She's known for a year. That internship program she did last summer. It was at Quantum Edge's R&D department. She's brilliant with quantum algorithms. I looked up at him. Something you might have noticed if you'd attended any of her science fairs. The board members began filing in, each nodding respectfully in my direction. They'd all known the truth and had helped keep my ownership quiet at the elder Mr. Chen's request. Marcus watched them, probably recalling all the times he bragged about how they followed his leadership. Take your seat, Marcus. I gestured to a chair halfway down the table, no longer at the head. We need to discuss the company's new direction. He sat down, looking smaller in his expensive suit than I'd ever seen him. The board members opened their packets, which detailed my plans for merging Chen Manufacturing's operations with Quantum Edge's technology. As you can see, I began, standing at the head of the table. Our first priority is modernizing the production line. Marcus's management has focused on traditional methods, resulting in a 23% efficiency decline. We'll be implementing Quantum Edge's AI systems to optimize operations. Marcus raised his hand like a schoolboy. But our methods are time-tested. Your methods are obsolete, I corrected. While you were clinging to your father's strategies, our competitors were innovating. The only thing that saved this company was my behind-the-scenes intervention with the board. One of the board members, Mr. Zhang, nodded. Mrs. Chen's proposals have been the only reason we've maintained market share, though we had to present them as modifications to your ideas, Marcus. All those revisions to my proposals. Marcus looked stunned. That was you. Consider it marriage counseling through corporate governance, I said with a slight smile. Though clearly only one of those institutions is worth saving. The meeting continued as I outlined the merger plans. Quantum Edge's technology would revolutionize Chen Manufacturing's operations, while the manufacturing infrastructure would help scale my quantum computing innovations. It was the perfect synthesis, exactly what the elder Mr. Chen had envisioned when he first approached me. And my role? Marcus finally asked as the meeting wound down. I pulled up his performance metrics on the screen. That depends. Your operational decisions have been questionable, your personnel management problematic, and your strategic planning almost non-existent. However, you're still excellent at client relations. When you actually attend the meetings, I distributed new organizational charts. I'm offering you a position as Chief Client Officer. No operational authority, but you'll handle key relationship management, if you can maintain professional boundaries this time. The board members smirked. They all knew about the secretary incident. And if I refuse, Marcus straightened his tie, trying to reclaim some dignity. Then you can update your LinkedIn profile. I closed my laptop. Your father's company needs modernization, Marcus. Either be part of that future or step aside completely. Your choice. As the board members filed out, Marcus remained seated, staring at his new job description. All those times I told you to leave the business discussions to me were highly entertaining, I finished, especially when you tried to explain basic concepts I've literally written textbooks about. Dad really chose you over me. He chose the company's future over your ego. I gathered my things. The question is, can you do the same? My phone buzzed again. Amy sending a photo from her school's quantum computing club, which I'd secretly funded. Mom, we just solved the algorithmic problem you sent. When can I show Dad? I turned the phone to Marcus. You have two choices. Keep mourning your lost position, or start building relationships with the people who matter most. Starting with your daughter, who's probably smarter than both of us combined. He stared at the photo, perhaps really seeing Amy's brilliance for the first time. She did that. She did. No thanks to your empty chair at her science competitions. I headed for the door. Board meetings are Mondays at 9 a.m. Family dinners are every night at 7 p.m. I suggest you stop missing both. After all, some CEOs measure success in dollars, but the best ones measure it in generations. 6 months later, I sat in my office reviewing the latest merger reports. Ken Manufacturing's efficiency had improved by 45% since implementing Quantum Edge's systems, and our stock had doubled. But the most interesting changes weren't showing up in the financial metrics. My phone lit up with a message from Marcus. Amy's quantum computing presentation starts in 30 minutes. Meeting room 3. On my way, I replied, smiling how much had changed. When I reached the conference room, I found Marcus already there, helping Amy set up her presentation materials. She was explaining her latest algorithm breakthrough, and to my surprise, he was actually listening. Mom, Amy beamed. Dad's been helping me practice. He says my quantum entanglement theory could revolutionize our manufacturing process. I raised an eyebrow at Marcus, who shrugged. I've been taking those quantum computing courses you recommended. Turns out our daughter is a better teacher than any professor. The room filled with board members and department heads. Amy stood confidently at the podium. At 16, she already had more natural business presence than Marcus had ever managed. As you can see, she said, pointing to her complex diagrams, by applying quantum principles to our production line, we can increase efficiency by another 60%. I watched Marcus watching our daughter. Gone was the dismissive executive who had missed every school event. In his place was a father finally learning to recognize brilliance that didn't mirror his own ego. After the presentation, during the enthusiastic applause, he leaned over to me. I was wrong about so many things. Oh, do tell. About business, about you, about Amy, he smiled ruefully. About what real success looks like. The board members were crowding around Amy, asking detailed questions about her proposals. Mr. John caught my eye and nodded approvingly. He'd been right when he suggested that revealing my ownership might save more than just the company. Your father would be proud, I told Marcus. Not of the company's performance, though that's improved too, but of this. I gestured toward him and Amy, now deep in discussion about quantum applications. He knew what he was doing, didn't he? When he chose you? He knew what you needed to learn. I checked my watch. Speaking of which, isn't it time for your weekly client dinner? Marcus shook his head. Canceled it. Amy's got her science fair tonight. Thought that was more important. I tried to hide my surprise. 6 months ago, he would have chosen the client without hesitation. Mom, Amy called out, can we show them the new R&D lab? The one Dad helped design. Another surprise. Marcus had spent the past month working with our research team, applying his client knowledge to create a more practical testing facility. It was the first time he'd built something without trying to take all the credit. Of course, I agreed. Though remember, dinner's at 7. Your grandmother's coming. Dad's cooking, Emmy announced proudly. He's been taking classes. I turned to Marcus, amused. Classes? Well, he straightened his now less expensive tie. You ran 2 companies while raising our children. The least I can do is learn to make dinner. As we walked to the R&D lab, I received a message from the elder Mr. Chen. How's my son doing? I watched Marcus explaining quantum principles to board members, his arm around Amy's shoulders, finally comfortable in a role that supported rather than dominated. He's learning, I replied. Sometimes the best way to lead is to learn how to follow first. After all, success isn't always about who sits at the head of the table. Sometimes it's about building a table worth sitting at together. And as I watched my husband and daughter lead the tour of their jointly designed lab, I realized that maybe the most profitable merger wasn't between our companies. It was between our family's past and its future, because some investments pay dividends in more than just dollars and cents. They pay them in moments like these. The restaurant hostess looked at me with pity as I sat alone at the table for 2, surrounded by anniversary decorations I'd specially requested. Would you like to order, Mrs. Wilson? She asked gently. I checked my phone one last time. No messages, just his brief text from an hour ago. Sorry, honey, emergency work situation. Rain check. I smoothed my red silk dress, the one I bought specifically for tonight, and smiled. Actually, I'll take the whole bottle of Chateau Lafite 1869. Her eyes widened. It was their most expensive wine, at $230,000 a bottle. Are you sure, ma'am? Absolutely. I pulled out my platinum card. And please join me. I believe we both know my husband won't be coming. As she hesitated, my phone buzzed with an Instagram notification. There he was in the background of his secretary Amanda's story, laughing at what appeared to be a rooftop party, his arm casually draped around her waist. The caption read, "Best boss ever. Hashtag work family, hashtag Friday nights." The hostess, Sarah, saw the photo and finally sat down. "Men are trash," she declared, pouring us both a generous glass. I raised mine in a toast to trash taking itself out. What my husband David didn't know, what nobody knew, was that this trophy wife had been orchestrating the biggest business coup of the decade. While he was busy working late with Amanda, I'd been working with a team of lawyers and investment bankers, slowly acquiring shares in his company through various shell corporations. You know what's funny? I mused, savoring the wine that cost more than David's first car. He always treated me like I was just decorative, the pretty, silent wife who gave up her career to support him. He forgot that before I married him, I had an MBA from Wharton and was out-earning him. Sarah leaned forward, intrigued. What happened? He convinced me to step back, said one big career was enough for our marriage. I was young in love, so I agreed. I smiled, remembering my naivety. Then came the late nights, the business trips, the young secretaries who kept getting younger while I apparently got too old. My phone pinged again, this time an email confirmation. The final shares had been transferred. As of 9 p.m. on what should have been our anniversary dinner, I owned 51% of Wilson International. But you know what they say about idle hands, I continued showing Sarah my phone. I got bored playing housewife. Started investing, making connections. Turns out, a lot of people in business remembered me from before, and were happy to help me quietly buy into my husband's company. Sarah's jaw dropped as she read the email. You own everything, I finished. The company, the buildings, even that rooftop where he's partying right now. And on Monday morning, the board will vote on new leadership. I pulled out an envelope and handed it to Sarah. That reminds me, this is for you. I've been watching how this place is run, how the staff is treated. You're wasted as a hostess. She opened it to find a business card with my private number and a job offer. Director of Hospitality Operations for my new hotel division. Her eyes filled with tears. Why me? Because while my husband was ignoring me at company events, I was watching everything. You're smart, capable, and deserve better than this. Just like I did. I stood up, smoothing my dress. The question is, are you ready for a change? Sarah stood too, determination replacing tears. When do I start? Monday. I'm going to need a strong team for what's coming. I left enough cash on the table to cover the wine and a generous tip for the other staff. As I walked to my car, another notification popped up. A text from David. Working late tonight, don't wait up. Behind it, I could see Amanda's latest story update. Best night ever with the boss. Hashtag work perks. I typed back, don't worry, honey. I have some work to catch up on myself. See you at the office on Monday. Then I called my pilot. James, get the jet ready. I think I'll spend the weekend at the island. I smiled, picturing David's face when he realizes his trophy wife now owns his company. Oh, and make sure the lawyers have those termination papers ready for Monday. Someone's secretary is about to learn what work perks really mean. The city lights blurred as my driver headed toward the private airfield. 15 years of being underestimated, of quiet observation and careful planning were about to pay off. David always said I didn't understand business. On Monday, he'd learned just how wrong he was. After all, I didn't spend $230,000 on wine just to drink it. I did it to celebrate the beginning of his end. The island breeze carried the scent of jasmine as I sat on my private beach, reviewing the weekend's developments on my tablet. David had called 17 times since Saturday morning. I let each one go to voicemail, enjoying the increasing panic in his messages. Honey, where are you? The house staff said you left the country. Please call me back. There are some strange rumors at the office. The last one, left an hour ago, was particularly desperate. Look, Amanda told me there's talk about a major shareholders meeting tomorrow. Please tell me you know nothing about this. I sipped my mimosa, watching my team of lawyers on the video call as they finalized Monday's strategy. Has everything been arranged for tomorrow, Marcus? My lead counsel nodded. Security has been briefed. All board members except David have been privately informed of the ownership change. And he smiled. Amanda's termination papers are ready, along with evidence of her creative expense reporting. Excellent. I forwarded him some screenshots. Add these to her file. Photos from Friday night's office party charged to the company card. Over $50,000 in champagne alone. My phone buzzed again, this time with a text from Sarah, my new hospitality director. You were right about the company's books. Found major discrepancies in event budgets, all approved by David and Amanda. Forward everything to Marcus, I replied. And Sarah, thank you for working the weekend before your official start. Are you kidding? This is better than Netflix. A notification popped up. Amanda's Instagram showed her arriving at David's house, presumably to discuss work. I forwarded this to Marcus too. Let them dig their graves deeper. Mrs. Wilson, Marcus continued, are you sure you want to handle tomorrow personally? We could manage the transition without. No, I set down my glass. I've waited 15 years to see their faces. I'll be there. After finishing the call, I walked along the shoreline, remembering the day I started this plan. It was at another beach during a company retreat 3 years ago. I'd overheard Amanda telling another secretary, God, I can't believe he's still married to her. She's so basic, doesn't understand his world at all. David had laughed. That night, I'd made my first call to Marcus, my old friend from Wharton. Remember how you always said I was wasting my potential? You were right. Help me take everything. Now, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of revenge, I checked my appearance in my phone's camera. The island air had given me a glow that no amount of Amanda's expensive facials could match. I looked nothing like the basic wife they mocked. My pilot's voice came through the intercom. Mrs. Wilson, the jet is ready whenever you'd like to return. Thank you, James. Let's go home. I have a meeting to prepare for. During the flight, I reviewed the company files one last time. David had been sloppy, confident no one was watching. Expensive business dinners that were actually dates with Amanda. Unauthorized bonuses. Private hotel rooms charged to corporate accounts. He built his empire on charm and others' work, taking credit for innovations from younger employees while rewarding Amanda for other contributions. Landing in the city, I went straight to my penthouse, not the house David thought was our only property. My phone showed 3 more missed calls from him, 2 from Amanda. Your outfit for tomorrow has arrived, my assistant texted, sending a photo of a crisp white power suit, perfect for dismantling a man's world. I slept peacefully that night, dreaming of boardrooms and consequences. At 6 a.m., I was already dressed and ready, watching the sun rise over the city David thought he owned. Sarah texted, security confirms they're both here early in David's office. Together. Perfect. I gathered my files. Start recording. My driver pulled up to corporate headquarters, the building I now owned. The security team nodded respectfully, already briefed on their new boss. In the elevator, I checked my reflection one last time. The woman looking back wasn't the trophy wife they dismissed. She was a CEO who'd played the longest game. Ready to make history? Marcus asked, meeting me on the executive floor. I smiled, hearing David's muffled voice through his office door, probably strategizing with Amanda about the mysterious shareholder meeting. I've been ready for 15 years. I nodded to security, who positioned themselves quietly. Sarah stood ready with her tablet, recording everything for the lawyers. And I, straightening my white suit jacket, prepared to crash my husband's morning meeting. After all, a CEO should properly introduce herself to her employees, even if she has to fire them immediately afterward. I pushed open David's office door without knocking. The scene was exactly what I'd expected. Amanda perched on his desk, her skirt inappropriately high, while David paced in his rumpled clothes from yesterday. They both froze when I entered. David's face cycled through surprise, relief, and then concern at my attire. Honey, what are you doing here? And why are you dressed like I own the place? I smiled, settling into his chair. Funny story about that. Amanda slid off the desk, straightening her skirt. This is a private meeting about urgent business matters. Oh, I know all about your urgent matters, Amanda. I opened my tablet. Like the $23,000 client dinner last month at that private villa in Monaco? Interesting location for a dinner. David's face paled. How did you? Access the company records. I pressed a button on the intercom. Marcus, Sarah, please join us. They entered with security, transforming the office into an impromptu boardroom. Amanda's perfectly maintained facade cracked as she recognized Sarah. The hostess? What is this? Sarah is our new director of hospitality operations, I corrected. And this is what happens when you underestimate a woman with too much time on her hands. Marcus distributed folders to everyone. Mrs. Wilson now holds majority ownership of Wilson International and all its subsidiaries. The board has already been notified. David collapsed into a chair. That's impossible. I would have known. Would you? I stood walking around the desk. You didn't notice when I started buying shares through shell companies. Didn't question why your investors suddenly changed. Too busy with business dinners to see your own company slipping away. Amanda lunged for her phone. I nodded to Sarah, who smoothly intercepted it. Looking for those photos from Friday night? Don't worry, we've archived everything. The board will love seeing how their executives spend company money. You can't do this, David whispered. I built this company. No, I corrected. You took credit for other people's work while playing boss with your secretary. I spent 3 years reviewing every decision, every innovation you claimed. Did you know Thomas from R&D developed your breakthrough project? The one you got that industry award for? His face reddened. That's not. Thomas starts as our new innovation director next week, with proper credit and compensation. I turned to Amanda. Speaking of compensation, let's discuss your creative expense reports. She backed toward the door, but security blocked her exit. Those were all approved. By your married boyfriend? Yes, we know. I handed her a final folder. This is your termination package. Sign it, and we won't pursue legal action for misappropriating funds. David stood suddenly. Now wait just a minute. Sit down, David. My voice could have frozen champagne. Your position is even more precarious than hers. Marcus stepped forward. Mr. Wilson, given the evidence of financial misconduct and inappropriate relationships with subordinates, the board has approved your immediate removal as CEO. You planned this? He accused, finally understanding. All those nights I thought you were just being a supportive wife. I learned from the best, I replied coldly. You taught me all about pretending to be something I'm not. Amanda was crying now, mascara running. What about our plans? The future you promised? I laughed. Oh, sweetheart, did you really think he'd leave his rich wife for his secretary? Ask his previous assistants how that worked out. Her head snapped toward David. Previous. Security will escort you both out, I continued. Your personal items will be shipped after a thorough audit. As they were led away, David turned back. What happened to you? Nothing happened to me. I just stopped being what you wanted. I straightened his nameplate before dropping it in the trash. Enjoy the rain check on our anniversary dinner. I hear there's a nice restaurant down the street that might be hiring. After they left, Sarah let out a low whistle. That was just the beginning, I said, settling behind my new desk. Marcus, call the board. Time to discuss the company's new direction. I smiled at Sarah. And let's renovate this office. I'm thinking something less overcompensating middle-aged man and more woman who burned the kingdom to claim her crown. Through the window, I watched David and Amanda exit the building, no longer arm in arm. Their perfect little world shattered like cheap champagne glasses. My phone buzzed. A message from my pilot. Island House is ready whenever you need a victory retreat. But I wasn't going anywhere. I had an empire to rebuild. After all, success isn't just about getting even. It's about getting everything. And I was just getting started. The Harvard graduation ceremony was perfect. Sunshine bathed the historic buildings in golden light. Proud families clutched programs, and my son James, in his crimson robe, graduated summa cum laude. The only thing missing was his father. He's really not coming, is he? James asked, adjusting his cap. At 22, he looked so much like his father had at that age, but with a wisdom in his eyes his father had never possessed. I checked my phone one last time, nothing except the Instagram story my husband Tom had posted an hour earlier, him in a tuxedo. Caption, some loves are worth celebrating. Hashtags that can translate love, hashtag wedding bells. No honey. Apparently, Melissa's wedding was too important to miss. I straightened James's tie, pushing down the anger that threatened to surface. but I have a surprise that might make up for it. James raised an eyebrow. He'd inherited my skepticism. Mom, you didn't have to. Actually, I did. I pulled out an envelope. Consider it a graduation gift, though you earned it entirely on your own merit. Inside was a contract naming him CFO of Blake Technologies, my carefully built tech empire that nobody, not even his father, knew I owned. For 15 years, I had operated through holding companies and investment firms, building a corporation that would revolutionize sustainable energy storage. Mom, James's hands trembled as he read the document. This is You Own Blake Technologies, the company that's been all over the financial news. I smiled, remembering how Tom had dismissed the company's success over breakfast last month. It'll never last, he'd said. Some trust fund kid playing at business. What do they know about real industry? I started building it the year your father began choosing his ex-girlfriend's events over our family, I explained. Remember all those charity committees I served on? Perfect cover for board meetings. Those book club nights. Actually strategic planning sessions. James's eyes widened as understanding dawned. The summer programming camps you sent me to were at my R&D facilities. You weren't just learning to code, you were helping develop our core technology. Your internships were all at subsidiary companies, he finished, laughing. God, Dad always said you were wasting time with volunteer work while he built his career. Right on schedule, my phone buzzed with a news alert. The markets had just opened, and Blake Technologies stock was soaring on announcements of our latest energy storage breakthrough. Your father chose today to attend his ex-girlfriend's wedding because she's marrying the CEO of Summit Industries. He thinks it'll help him finally get that promotion he's been chasing. James snorted. The promotion you blocked? You knew? Mom, I interned in their finance department last summer, remember? I saw the acquisition offers. I knew they had to be coming from someone with inside knowledge of Dad's management style or lack thereof. I grinned. He really was ready for the CFO position. Summit Industries has been trying to expand into sustainable tech. Your father convinced them he could deliver Blake Technologies on a silver platter through his industry connections. But you own Blake Technologies. And now so do you. I pointed to the contract's equity arrangements. 20% vested immediately. You've earned it with your work on the core patents. James hugged me tight, his graduation robe rustling. Does this mean? Yes. Monday morning, we're going public with everything, including the fact that I'm acquiring Summit Industries. I straightened his tassel. Your father's about to learn that while he was chasing his past, he missed his future. What about Melissa's wedding? Oh, that. I pulled out my phone, showing him the venue's ownership documents. Let's just say the reception might be interrupted by some urgent business matters. The ceremony was starting, families taking their seats. James looked at the empty chair beside me, then at the contract in his hands. He really thought you were just a trophy wife, didn't he? All these years. Your father made the mistake many men do, I said, standing to straighten his cap one last time. He assumed a quiet woman is a simple one, ready to show him otherwise. James grinned, my grin, the one that had sealed billion-dollar deals. Absolutely. As the graduates lined up, my phone buzzed with another Instagram update from Tom. A photo with Melissa, captioned supporting old friends on their special day. Sorry to miss other events, but business comes first. I typed a quick reply, don't worry, honey. Our son understands completely that business comes first. In fact, he's about to show you exactly how business is done. Then I turned off my phone and took my seat, ready to watch my son graduate into his birthright. Not his father's struggling company, but my thriving empire. After all, some things are worth missing a wedding for. The graduation reception was in full swing when my phone started buzzing with frantic texts from Tom. Melissa's wedding had apparently hit an unexpected snag. The venue's ownership had mysteriously changed hands overnight, and the new owner was enforcing a strict corporate events-only policy. What do you mean they're shutting down the reception? His message read. This is a disaster. Can you call some of your charity friends? I showed the messages to James, who was entertaining a group of Harvard professors with insights into sustainable energy markets. Should we tell him those charity friends are actually my board of directors? Not yet, James grinned, accepting another congratulatory handshake from the dean of business. Let him sweat a little longer. The irony wasn't lost on me. While Tom scrambled to save his ex's wedding reception, We were surrounded by the world's top academics and business leaders, all eager to discuss James's groundbreaking thesis on renewable energy storage systems he had developed in my labs. My phone lit up with a news alert. Blake Technologies announces revolutionary partnership with MIT. Perfect timing. Mrs. Reynolds, a reporter from the Financial Times approached. Could we get a comment on the rumors that Blake Technologies is planning a major acquisition? I smiled mysteriously. All I can say is that Monday's announcement will change the energy sector landscape. The reporter's eyes widened as recognition dawned. He had just realized who I really was. Mom, James whispered as the reporter hurried away, Dad's calling. I let it go to voicemail, instead watching the live stream from Melissa's wedding. The venue staff were very professionally informing guests that the reception would need to relocate. Tom was red-faced, arguing with security, his dreams of networking with Summit Industries' CEO crumbling. Your father never understood the difference between connections and relationships, I told James. He thinks standing next to power makes you powerful. My phone buzzed again, this time with a message from my head of acquisitions. Summit Industries stock just dropped 12% on rumors of instability. Should we begin buying? Execute Plan A, I replied. Let's give them something real to worry about. James loosened his tie, watching the chaos unfold on the wedding livestream. You know what's funny? Dad always said I should focus on practical business instead of sustainable energy research. Called it a rich kid's hobby. Meanwhile, your hobby just revolutionized grid-scale energy storage. I showed him another news alert. Our stock had jumped 30% on the MIT announcement. The dean approached again, this time with the university president. James, your mother tells us you'll be taking an executive position. Chief Financial Officer of Blake Technologies, James confirmed, shaking hands. Though we'll be announcing some structural changes Monday. My phone lit up with a text from Sarah, my Chief of Operations. Summit Industries CEO just left the wedding, heading to emergency board meeting. Right on schedule, I murmured. James excused himself from the conversation and pulled me aside. Mom, Melissa just posted on Instagram. She's blaming Dad for ruining her wedding. Apparently, he promised the venue was taken care of through his business connections. I checked the post. It was scathing. Your father always did overpromise and underdeliver. Speaking of delivering, James said, shouldn't we head to the office? The Summit Industries board meeting starts in an hour. I checked my watch. Actually, I thought we could crash a wedding first. 20 minutes later, our car pulled up to the scattered remains of Melissa's reception. Guests in formal wear milled about while Tom argued desperately with the venue manager. This must be some mistake, he was saying. Do you know who I am? Who these people are? Actually, I said, stepping out of the car with James, they know exactly who everyone is. Tom spun around, his face shifting from rage to confusion. What are you? Why aren't you at the graduation? Oh, we finished that hours ago, James said coolly. Dad, I believe you missed my valedictory speech. Something about the future of sustainable energy technology. I had important business. Tom started. Yes, I cut in. We know all about your important business with Summit Industries. How's that going? His face paled. How did you? Mom, James interrupted, checking his phone. Summit stock just dropped another 8%. Should we start the next phase? Next phase of what? Tom demanded. What are you talking about? Melissa stormed over, mascara running. This is your fault, Tom. You promised you had influence, connections. I smiled, pulling out my tablet. Speaking of connections, would you like to see some real ones? I pulled up the venue's ownership documents, showing my signature at the bottom. For instance, this venue now belongs to Blake Technologies' hospitality division. Tom's jaw dropped. Blake Technologies? But that's my company, I finished. Well, mine and James's now. He's taking over as CFO on Monday. I turned to Melissa. By the way, congratulations on your wedding. Shame about your fiancé's company, though. What about his company? She demanded. Oh, you haven't heard. James showed her his phone, displaying Summit Industries' plummeting stock price. They're about to be acquired. Hostile takeover. Very unfortunate timing. Tom grabbed my arm. You, all this time. I removed his hand firmly. Yes, dear, all this time. Now, if you'll excuse us, we have a board meeting to attend. James, shall we? As we walked away, Tom called out, "Wait, what about my position at Summit?" I turned back, savoring the moment. "Don't worry, honey. I'm sure you'll find something at your level. After all, business comes first, right?" The Summit Industries boardroom fell silent as James and I walked in. Their CEO, Melissa's new husband, was mid-presentation, desperately trying to explain their plummeting stock price. "I apologize for interrupting," I said smoothly, "but I believe you're discussing my company's acquisition offer." "Your company?" The CEO stammered, his wedding boutonniere already wilted. "But Blake Technologies is sitting right in front of you," James finished, taking a seat at the table. "Though technically, we prefer Reynolds Global now. The rebranding goes public on Monday." I enjoyed watching comprehension dawn on their faces. These men had dismissed my company as a temporary market disruption. Now they were realizing who really held the power. "This is impossible," the CEO protested. Tom assured us. Yes, my husband." I projected Tom's personnel file onto the screen. "Currently a middle manager in your declining energy division. Tell me, did you really believe he had the authority to broker a deal with Blake Technologies?" The board members shifted uncomfortably. One cleared his throat. "Mrs. Reynolds, perhaps we could discuss this privately." "Like you discussed acquiring my company behind my back." James pulled out his tablet. "I have the emails. Fascinating reading, especially the parts about an easy takeover and inexperienced leadership." My phone buzzed with a text from Tom. "Please don't do this. I can explain everything." I ignored it and addressed the board. "Gentlemen, you have two options. Accept our very generous offer or watch your stock price drop another 30% when we announce our new energy storage patents Monday morning." "Patents that make your entire infrastructure obsolete," James added casually. "Mom, didn't their technical team try to hack our servers last month?" "They did," I confirmed. "Right after Tom's networking attempt at the wedding." The CEO loosened his bow tie, his wedding day already forgotten. "What are your terms?" "James," I gestured to my son, "would you like to handle this? Consider it a graduation present." For the next 20 minutes, I watched proudly as James outlined our acquisition strategy. Every number was flawless, every projection precise. The Harvard professors would have been proud. Finally, the CEO crumbled. "We'll have the paperwork drawn up." "Already done." I slid across the contracts Marcus had prepared. "Sign today, and we'll retain 40% of your executive team. Wait until Monday, and that drops to 10%. As they signed, my phone lit up with notifications. Tom had arrived in the lobby, demanding to be let upstairs. I texted security. "Let him watch the live feed." James gathered the signed contracts, then addressed the room. "One final announcement. Due to ethical concerns, we'll be conducting a complete audit of all executive relationships and communications." He paused meaningfully, "particularly any involving my father." The CEO's wedding day pallor turned ghostly. Those emails would reveal everything, including Tom's promises about Blake Technologies. "Speaking of weddings," I said, standing and smoothing my dress, "please extend my congratulations to Melissa. I hear the venue situation was unfortunate." In the lobby, Tom watched on security monitors as his career imploded. His phone showed missed calls from Melissa, whose new husband was about to become an unemployed ex-CEO. "Mrs. Reynolds, my assistant called. Your jet is ready. The Harvard dean is hosting a dinner to discuss the new Reynolds School of Sustainable Technology." "Perfect." I gathered my things, then turned to the shell-shocked board. "Gentlemen, it's been educational. James will oversee the transition team. I suggest full cooperation." In the elevator, James finally let out the laugh he'd been holding. "Did you see their faces when they realized who you were? Almost as good as your father's face at the wedding." I showed him the security feed of Tom in the lobby, watching his world collapse. "Should we tell him about the house?" James asked. "You mean how I bought it last year? Let's wait until he tries to go home." I smiled. Consider the lesson in due diligence. My phone buzzed one final time. Melissa had posted a furious update about her ruined wedding, tagging Tom and blaming him for everything. "Mom," James said softly, "remind me never to underestimate you." "No, me, honey." I hugged him close. "You're the one person who never did." As we walked out of Summit Industries building, soon to be Reynolds Global's newest office, I couldn't help but think how right Tom had been about one thing. Business did come first. He just never realized whose business it would be. The sun was setting on his empire. But for James and me, it was only the beginning. I sat in my home office, watching the security feed from my daughter Emma's 16th birthday party. She looked beautiful in her blue dress, but her eyes kept drifting to the empty seat beside me. Jack had promised he'd make it this time. He'd sworn this party was on his calendar, blocked off months in advance. Then came the usual text. Critical investor meeting. Can't miss this. I'll make it up to her tomorrow. My phone buzzed with another message, this time from my COO. Acquisition papers are ready. Jack's company has no idea what's coming. Perfect timing, I typed back. He just missed another milestone. Emma appeared in my doorway, her party dress slightly wrinkled. Mom, is Dad really not coming? I closed the security feed and opened my arms. She might be 16, but she still needed her mother's hugs. He's stuck in a meeting, honey. Like Tommy's graduation, and my piano competition, and Christmas? Her voice cracked slightly. Why does his business always matter more than us? If only Jack knew that while he was building his modest tech consulting firm, I'd spent the last decade creating Aurora Technologies, the fastest growing tech company in Asia. Those mommy and me classes I attended, actually board meetings scheduled around school pickups. The book club that met during his business trips, my executive team. Sometimes, I said carefully, people don't realize what they're losing until it's gone. I checked my watch. Speaking of which, how would you like to help me with something important? Emma wiped her eyes. What kind of something? I pulled up the acquisition documents on my screen. Remember how Dad always said I didn't understand business? Want to watch me buy his company? Her eyes widened. Aurora Technologies, that's you. That's us, I corrected. Those coding camps I sent you to every summer. They were at our R&D facilities. All those community service projects for your college applications, actually internships at our subsidiary companies. But Dad said Aurora was his biggest competitor. He's been trying to land their contracts for months. I know. I smiled, remembering Jack's dinner rants about the mysterious company that kept outbidding him. He's about to learn why he kept losing those bids. My phone lit up with another message, this time from Jack. Might be late tonight. Major problem with the Aurora Technologies deal. Of course there is, I murmured, signing the final acquisition papers with my digital pen. Emma, would you like to do the honors? She took my tablet, her finger hovering over the submit button. Dad always said women in business think too small. Then let's think big. I showed her the company valuations. His firm is worth $50 million. Aurora Technologies, $12 billion. She pressed submit. Somewhere across town, Jack's company lawyers were about to receive notice of a hostile takeover. What happens now? Emma asked. Now, we go back to your party. But Monday morning, I pulled up the reorganization plans. Dad gets to learn who his new boss is. Will you fire him? No, honey. I stroked her hair. I'm going to teach him exactly what he's been missing. My phone buzzed again. Aurora Technologies stock had jumped another 3% on rumors of expansion. Jack had no idea that every contract he'd lost, every deal that fell through, was orchestrated by the wife he dismissed as just a mom. Mom, Emma said softly. Why didn't you ever tell him? Because he never asked. I stood straightening her party dress. Your father was so busy showing the world his success, he never noticed ours. But Monday he'll notice everything. As we walked back to the party, I received one final text from Jack's company lawyer. Hostile takeover in progress. Emergency board meeting called for Monday morning. I smiled, remembering all the school plays and soccer games Jack had missed. All the times he patronizingly explained basic business concepts to me over dinner, while I was secretly running a billion-dollar corporation. Emma, I said, watching her face light up as her friends gathered around. Sometimes the biggest victories come from being underestimated. After all, Jack had always said business came first. He just never specified whose business it would be. Monday morning arrived with a storm of notifications on Jack's phone. His company's stock had plummeted 40% in pre-market trading, and Aurora Technologies' name was splashed across every financial news headline. I watched through my office windows as he rushed into his building across town, the security feed showing him looking disheveled. He'd probably been up all night trying to stop the inevitable. My phone buzzed with his message. Can't make breakfast. Company emergency. I know, I typed back. Good luck with the meeting. Emma appeared in my doorway, dressed for school but clearly too excited to leave. Is it happening? I nodded, pulling up the live feed from Jack's boardroom on my screen. Want to watch history in the making? She settled into the chair beside me, and together we watched as Jack's board members filed in, faces grim. His company lawyer was distributing documents while Jack paced nervously. The hostile takeover bid is legitimate, the lawyer was saying. Aurora Technologies has been secretly acquiring shares through various shell companies for the past year. That's impossible. Jack slammed his hand on the table. We would have noticed. I smirked, remembering all the times he dismissed my investment suggestions. Actually, honey, you didn't. My phone lit up with a message from my COO. Team in position. Ready when you are. Mom, Emma whispered, are you really going to? Watch and learn, sweetheart. I stood smoothing my charcoal gray suit. This is what happens when someone underestimates a mother's ability to multitask. The security feed showed my executive team entering Jack's building. Right on cue, his assistant rushed into the boardroom. Sir, Aurora Technologies representatives are here. Jack straightened his tie, putting on his best negotiating face. Send them in. We'll fight this takeover. The boardroom door opened and my team walked in, led by Thomas, my COO, who played the role of Aurora's public face for years. Good morning, Thomas began. We're here to discuss the transition. There won't be a transition, Jack interrupted. We're not selling. Actually, Thomas smiled, checking his watch, you already have. As of 9 a.m., Aurora Technologies owns 51% of your shares. But perhaps you'd like to discuss this with our CEO. Jack scoffed. The mysterious CEO no one's ever met finally decided to show their face. She's shown her face every day, Thomas replied. You just never noticed her. That was my cue. Emma squeezed my hand as I stood, ready to see Dad's business skills in action. The click of my heels echoed through Jack's boardroom as I entered. The look on his face was worth every missed dinner, every condescending comment about my simple mom life. Hello, dear, I said calmly. Rough morning. Jack's face went through a range of emotions: confusion, disbelief, anger. What is this? This, I settled into his chair at the head of the table, is what happens when you're too busy looking down on someone to notice them rising above you. You? He laughed nervously. You're saying you're Aurora Technologies CEO. That's impossible. You can't run a multi-billion-dollar corporation while raising our children. I pulled up Aurora's financials on the boardroom screen. Funny thing about mothers, we're excellent at managing multiple responsibilities. Something you might have noticed if you've been around more. His board members stared at the numbers in shock. Aurora's value was more than 200 times their company's worth. But the school committees, the mom groups, the book club, board meetings, investor conferences, and executive strategy sessions. I smiled. Amazing how much business you can conduct during school hours. Jack collapsed into a chair. Why didn't you tell me? You never asked. I opened my tablet, too busy explaining basic concepts to your simple wife. By the way, remember that contract you lost last month? I particularly enjoyed your presentation. Though next time, maybe don't dismiss female leadership in tech to a female CEO. His face paled. That investor meeting was you? Through video conference. I had to leave early for Emma's piano recital. You remember, the one you were too busy for. Thomas distributed new contracts to the board. We'll be restructuring the company, obviously, though some positions will remain, in altered capacities. Jack straightened. You're firing me? On the contrary, I replied. You're being promoted to Vice President of Family Relations. What does that mean? It means, I stood savoring the moment, that your new job is attending every school event, family dinner, and holiday celebration. Your bonus will be tied to time spent with our children. Consider it a crash course in work-life balance. And if I refuse, then you can explain to our investors why you walked away from the only company willing to hire you after this morning's stock crash. I showed him his company's plummeting share price. Your choice. The board members were already signing the new contracts. They'd seen the numbers. Resistance was pointless. Emma's piano competition is this weekend, I added. Your first assignment as VP of Family Relations. I suggest you don't miss it. As I walked out, Jack called after me. Was any of our life real? I turned back. All of it was real. I just refused to choose between being a mother and being successful. Maybe now you'll understand why. My phone buzzed. Emma had sent a message. Dad's face was pyrrhicelvious. But Mom, are you really giving him another chance? Everyone deserves a chance to learn from their mistakes, I typed back. Even fathers who think business is more important than ballet recitals. After all, sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction. 1 month later, I sat in the auditorium watching Emma's piano competition, but this time the seat beside me wasn't empty. Jack sat there, nervously checking his new company tablet, which now displayed our children's schedule instead of stock prices. Stop fidgeting, I whispered. She can see you from backstage. Sorry, he muttered. It's just, I've never seen her perform before. I know. The words carried the weight of years of absent parenting. That was rather the point of your new position. His first month as VP of Family Relations had been a crash course in everything he'd missed. Every morning, instead of rushing to client meetings, he drove Emma to school. Afternoons were spent at Tommy's soccer practice rather than board presentations. Dinner conversations now revolved around our children's lives instead of his business complaints. My phone lit up with a message from Thomas. Quarterly reports ready for review. Also, Jack's attendance log is impressive. Hasn't missed a single family event. Amazing what proper motivation can do, I typed back, watching Jack wave encouragingly at Emma as she took the stage. As our daughter began to play, I saw tears in Jack's eyes. She's incredible, he whispered. When did she get so good? During all those recitals you missed, I replied softly. But you're here now, that's what matters. The audience fell silent as Emma's music filled the hall. Jack reached for my hand, the first time he'd done so in years. I was so wrong, he murmured. About which part? Everything. Business, family, you? He turned to face me. How did you do it? Build an empire while raising our children. I smiled, remembering all the careful planning, the late nights after the kids were asleep, the strategic use of every spare moment. I chose not to accept the limitations others placed on me, including yours. Emma hit a particularly complex passage perfectly, and pride swelled in my chest. Every time you missed a moment like this, I built something new. Your absences became my motivation. And now, he asked quietly, now you're learning what real success looks like. I showed him his latest performance review, based not on profit margins, but on family memories created. You're actually quite good at this job when you try. After the performance, Emma ran to us, her face glowing. Dad, Mom, did you see? I didn't miss a single note. You were perfect, sweetheart. Jack hugged her, really hugged her, perhaps for the first time in years. I'm so sorry I missed all your other performances. But you're here now, she said, echoing my earlier words. And you're coming to my practice sessions too, right? As per your contract? He laughed, a genuine laugh I hadn't heard in ages. Yes, it's officially in my calendar. Your mother made sure of that. My phone buzzed again. Aurora's stock had hit another record high. But for once, I didn't immediately check the details. Some successes weren't measured in market value. Ice cream to celebrate, Emma suggested. Dad's buying, since Mom basically owns his wallet now. As we walked to the car, Jack held back for a moment. Thank you, he said quietly, for not destroying me when you could have. That was never the goal, I replied. The goal was to make you see what really matters. Sometimes the best way to teach value is to change the currency. Emma called from ahead. Mom, can we show Dad the new technology center? The one named after me. Jack's eyes widened. You named a building after her. Actually, I smiled. I named a whole research division after her. Turns out, while you were building a company, I was building a legacy. For both our children. We drove to the ice cream parlor, the same one we'd visited after Emma's first recital, the one Jack had missed. But this time, we were all there, together. Sometimes success isn't about winning or losing. Sometimes it's about redefining the game entirely. And as I watched Jack finally truly engage with our daughter's stories about her music and dreams, I realized that maybe, just maybe, my greatest business achievement wasn't building Aurora Technologies. It was reconstructing our family. After all, some portfolios are measured in moments, not millions. And those are the ones that truly matter.